This happened on the last day of my sophomore year, and it's something I still think about every time I hear a school hallway echo when it's supposed to be empty. The final day had the usual energy: teachers giving up on lessons, kids dragging trash bags full of notebooks to their lockers, the constant sound of lockers slamming and laughter bouncing off the walls. It felt less like school and more like a waiting room before summer officially started. I remember checking the clock every 5 minutes, counting down until freedom. My last class ended early, and instead of going straight to the buses, I decided to clean out my locker properly. I'd been putting it off all year, and I didn't want to come back in August and deal with old food wrappers and half-used notebooks. Most of the hallway was already empty. Lockers stood open like metal mouths, abandoned backpacks sitting on the floor where people had dumped them without a second thought. As I opened my locker, something immediately felt wrong. Inside, sitting neatly on the top shelf, was a spiral notebook I knew wasn't mine. It was clean, no bent corners, no doodles. At first, I assumed someone had shoved it in there by mistake. That kind of thing happened all the time. But when I picked it up, I noticed my name written on the front in black marker. First and last name, perfectly spelt. I felt a sudden chill run up my arms. I flipped it open, expecting maybe a prank or a dumb joke. Instead, the pages were filled, page after page, notes written in tight, careful handwriting. They weren't random either. They were observations, things about me, what time I usually arrived at school, which entrance I used, who I talked to between classes. There were even notes about what I wore on specific days. The deeper I flipped, the worse it got. One page described a conversation I'd had with my friend the day before. Another mentioned a test I'd failed and hadn't told anyone about yet. The last page made my stomach drop. It read, "Today is the last day. If I don't do it now, I never will." I slammed the notebook shut and looked around the hallway. It was completely empty. No footsteps, no voices, just the low hum of the lights overhead. I didn't know what to do. I stood there for a full minute frozen before I heard a locker slam somewhere down the hall. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I shoved the notebook into my backpack and hurried toward the exit, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I told the school the next day. They said they'd look into it. Nothing ever came of it. No cameras caught anything. No one claimed the notebook. I never found out who wrote it. But when I came back the next year, my locker assignment had changed. Inside my new locker, taped neatly to the door, was a single sheet of paper.
My friends and I stayed late on the last day of school because we were idiots, plain and simple. We wanted to mess around one last time before summer. The building emptied out fast. Teachers left, janitors started locking sections off, and the hallways slowly went quiet. By the time we realized how late it was, the sun was already setting, casting long orange shadows through the windows. There were 4 of us. We were hanging out in the gym, throwing a basketball around, laughing about how weird it felt to be done with that place. No one was supposed to be there anymore. The exits were technically still open, but the school felt off, like it didn't want people inside once the day was officially over. At some point, we heard footsteps, slow, heavy, coming from the hallway outside the gym. We assumed it was a janitor until the footsteps stopped right outside the gym doors and didn't move. No keys jingling, no carts rolling, just stillness. One of my friends called out, "Hello?" No answer. Then the lights in the gym shut off. Not flickered, not dimmed, completely off. We froze. The only light came from the exit signs glowing red in the darkness. We heard the footsteps again, this time closer, inside the gym. Someone was walking along the bleachers. We backed toward the doors, whispering, trying not to panic. I remember the sound of breathing, not mine, someone else's, slow and deliberate, like they knew exactly where we were standing. We ran. We didn't care about being quiet anymore. We bolted through the hallway, our footsteps echoing too loud, too fast. The exit doors were at the end of the corridor. We could see them. Freedom was right there. That's when the intercom came on. It crackled. Then a voice spoke. It wasn't a teacher. It wasn't an administrator. It sounded distorted, like it was coming through an old radio. Students are reminded. School has ended. We burst through the doors and didn't stop running until we were halfway down the street. None of us spoke for a long time. The next week, one of my friends went back to the school to pick up something he'd forgotten. He asked the janitor if anyone had been working late that day. The janitor looked confused. He said the building had been completely empty.
The last day of elementary school is supposed to be happy. I remember everyone hugging, crying, promising to stay friends forever. Teachers handed out candy. Parents waited outside with cameras. It felt like the end of something safe. I took the bus home like I always did. Same seat, same driver, same route. But that day, something felt wrong the moment the doors closed. The bus didn't stop at the first corner. Then it didn't stop at the second. A few kids started whispering. Someone asked the driver if he'd missed the turn. He didn't respond. His eyes stayed fixed on the road ahead. We kept driving. Houses turned into trees. Side streets disappeared. I remember gripping the seat in front of me, my stomach twisting. One kid started crying. Another tried to walk up to the front. The driver finally spoke. He said, "Quiet." The bus slowed down near a wooded area I had never seen before and pulled over. The engine kept running. The doors stayed shut. He stood up and turned to face us. I didn't recognize him anymore. His face looked wrong, pale, stretched, like a mask pulled too tight. He said, "You're not supposed to leave yet." That's when the doors opened on their own. A teacher's car screeched to a stop behind the bus. Someone banged on the side. The driver sat back down, started the engine, and pulled away like nothing had happened. The bus turned around and took us home. No one talked about it. Years later, I found out something terrifying. That bus driver had quit 3 days before the last day of school.